Welcome to a very special episode of Talk Heathen. Let me start by answering the questions you all undoubtedly have. Where the heck are Eric and Jamie, and who the hell is this guy? Eric and Jamie are at the American Atheist Convention in Oklahoma. They actually live streamed an episode on Friday that I highly recommend you check out. After this video, of course. As for who I am, my name is Mr. Atheist, and I am the host of Dear Mr. Atheist on YouTube. It's a show that airs every Thursday where we answer the assertions and questions that atheists are posed over and over and over again. Joining me today, backed by popular demand, you know them, you love them, please welcome EJ Sorrell. Say hi, EJ.
I'm back!
To many atheist chagrin, I'm sure. In celebration of passing 10,000 subscribers on the Talk Heathen channel, EJ and I are going to take you on a trip down memory lane through some of our favorite clips, as well as the comments from those episodes. And before we actually get started, I know we have a special message from a couple of familiar faces.
Hi Heathens, I'm coming to you from the 2018 American Atheist National Convention, and I want to say thank you to our more than 12,000 subscribers. We could not have done what we've done without you. The last 6 months of my life have been a hectic roller coaster, but the last 18 weeks, things have really been looking up. So, thank you for making dreams I didn't know I had come true. Here's looking at you, heathen.
Hey, Mr. Atheist. Hey, EJ. This is Eric. I'm so glad you're doing this. Thank you so much for putting together this clip show for everybody. I'm over here at the American Atheist Convention. We just finished our show. Had a blast. You guys got to come with us next time. But in the meantime, have a really good time finding your favorite clips. Read some awesome comments. We'll see you all next week.
I just wanted to add, congratulations, dudes. You deserve it all, as well as the world. So proud of you. EJ, they just hit 10,000 subscribers. What do you think?
I mean, obviously it's because I was a guest. No, I'm kidding. They worked so hard and they absolutely deserve it.
EJ, I am ready to jump straight into it. What about you?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Let's do this.
But fun fact, the moon actually is getting sucked in towards the Earth. Every year it moves a couple centimeters closer because it's so far away that it'll be a really long time before the moon gets close enough to actually be, drawn into the Earth's gravity. But it is moving closer, and that's something that we can measure.
EJ, you know what I'm going to ask you. I got to ask about your fun fact. Is the moon coming toward the Earth?
No. The moon goes away from the Earth. I am aware. Thank you to the thousands of commenters who have helpfully informed me. So the fun thing about being on a live show for the first time, when you've literally never done this before, which is what first time means, is that sometimes you get nervous and you make brain farts, and especially when you have somebody who's cutting you off after every sentence, and so you're speaking quickly to avoid them cutting you off. What I was trying to say was that Mars's moon Phobos is actually coming in towards Mars, not the Earth's moon. And in my head, I had said Mars and I had said Phobos, and so that's why it looks like I know what I'm talking about. My description of the dynamics was absolutely 100% correct. I just, complete brain fart, thought I was talking about Phobos and Mars, and I'm sure everybody's gonna say, oh, it's such a lame excuse. No, actual fun fact is that Phobos is slowly approaching Mars's Roche limit. And the Roche limit is where the internal stresses from gravity pull on one side being so much stronger than the other side of a celestial body is that it will actually tear the moon apart. And so that's actually how rings form. That's how Saturn's rings formed. And if our moon truly was getting sucked in towards Earth, we would get cool rings too. But, fun fact, the moon is moving away from Earth. Yay.
Now I'm bummed out that we're not getting rings. So, what causes a moon to be a moon that is coming toward the Earth as opposed to a moon that is going, or toward the planet, as opposed to a moon that is pushing away from the planet?
So like most orbital mechanics in general, there's so many factors to consider. So
orbital mechanics aren't a proof of anything. That's completely ridiculous.
Triangular mechanics, no. So with our moon, the big factor here is that it's essentially kind of stealing energy from Earth. And so this is something that's really difficult for people to conceptualize, is that orbits have a specific orbital energy. And so the Earth's rotation slows slightly And the moon is taking that energy from the slowing of the Earth's rotation and using that to add energy to its own orbit. And so as you add energy to an orbit, the orbit gets bigger and bigger.
That's dope. I had always just done the like Isaac Newton, if you throw the ball, as long as the velocity is stronger than orbit, it goes straight, but once it isn't. So I assumed it was just that. I didn't know it picked up the additional energy too.
Yeah, so that's a factor that comes specifically into play with our moon and with Earth. With any celestial body, there are so many factors that affect its orbit that'll affect, whether it's moving in or out, that'll affect like whether the orbit stays steady or whether its orbit parameters are changing over time, whether the inclination or, any number of parameters that measure orbits. A lot of these will change over time, and that has there's a lot of factors that go into that.
So we are going to review a few of our favorite comments from each of these videos. They actually are comments reacting to the entirety of that episode. So if you haven't seen the episode we're drawing from, definitely recommend you do so, and we will make sure those links are available in the description below of where we're pulling the clips from.
Okay, comment number 1. Flat earthers should be herded, spelled Hearded, and kept out of the gene pool.
Yeah, so listen, here's the thing. I get where you're coming from, not you, EJ, but the person who made this comment. But if you're going to make like an intellectual superiority argument, maybe don't start with such a bad spelling error, because these are like 4 and 5 letter words. I'm not trying to defend the flat earthers. Also, how would that work? Would you isolate them, or are you saying kill them? I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you're saying isolate them. The best way to do so would be to put them in a rocket and send them somewhere else. But the moment they look back and see the Earth is round, they're no longer flat earthers. So then do we pull them back? How does that all work?
Flat earthers are people too?
I agree. Let's not isolate them from the gene pool. Let's just be better at educating people.
Let's just educate their children, since I don't know that we can get to them at this point.
Yeah, I remember right before I launched Dear Mr. Atheist, I'm trying not to plug that show too much today, but right before I launched, I made a post on Facebook that was like, working on this new channel, can't tell you much about it yet, just know that it's going to turn all your kids gay. I'll do the next one. I don't think airplanes are real. If you think about it, they're just big cars with wings, and cars need roads. There aren't any roads in the sky, so what are they driving on? So they must be hallucinations introduced by the NSA or the CIA or communists or something by way of chemtrails spread by airplanes. I just like this one because it sort of just brings together all of those silly conspiracies, and
it's a fun satire. Yeah.
It is. It is. And it's fun how people don't get when people parody how silly. It's like this whole collective group. Go ahead.
The problem is when you look at that comment section, which I believe is now over like 4,000 or 5,000 comments at this point. When you look at that comment section, a good portion of the comments look like that, and they're not satires. So it gets real hard to tell. What is it, Poe's Law, I think?
So to preface, because it doesn't happen in the video, in the clip we just showed, at the beginning, Victor, who is this flat earth guy from Brooklyn, if you haven't watched any of his clips, they're very funny. He calls in and posits this idea about flat earth, and EJ responds that they are an aerospace engineer and ready to take on this idea. So go ahead, EJ, read for us the last comment.
An aerospace engineer or a student? Silly little kid.
Do you really think that was the tone of voice? I don't do it any better when I read the comments.
I don't know what tone to take. An aerospace engineer or a student? Silly little kid. Like, I don't know what the good tone is. Like, I don't know what a good
You're
tone
so much nicer, because these are trolls. It was seriously, this is the correct tone of voice. An aerospace engineer, student, silly little kid.
Maybe you should do it then, because I can't do that voice.
Please try.
An aerospace engineer or a student? Silly little kid.
That one might be more accurate. It wasn't the voice I did, but it was pretty accurate.
Hi, so first of all, I'm 21. I'm a 4th year aerospace engineering student. It got cut out of the video and I didn't title it, so it doesn't say that I'm a student. I am a student. I acknowledge that multiple times in the video. I also talk about being in classes, which like an actual engineer isn't anymore. So I'm 21. I'm not a kid. I'm not 14. A lot of people thought that. Oh God, my cat is in the way. Cat, no. Cat, no. Go
We're
away.
keeping that part in.
On a slightly more serious note, I know this is supposed to be kind of a lighthearted video, but I want to make myself a little bit vulnerable right now, which may be a mistake, we'll see. I'm a human too. I read the comments, and I think at this point we're up to like 4,000 something comments, or close to 5,000 comments on this video. And there's a lot of really mean comments out there that are intended to be hateful and hurtful, and, I'll be real, like, they do hurt when I read them, and you wrote them intending to hurt me, so, like, congratulations, you did it. The thing is, when I get hurt, I have people that I can go to, I have things I can go to comfort myself, and that hurt is temporary. But a lot of you out there who are writing these hurtful comments, you're hurting too. And I want you to know that whatever caused your pain, whoever or whatever it was, you didn't deserve that, and adding more pain and hurt to the world isn't going to make your hurt any better. So, yeah, that's about all I have to say. You deserve compassion.
That is way nicer than anything I would have ever said to a mean comment. Most of my summaries are, oh, thanks for the mean comment. Now go fuck yourself. But I'm glad nice people like you exist out in the world. I'm going to take the low road.
It's really easy, and it can be kind of enjoyable to, make that easy insult, snappy comeback or whatever it is that you want to do in your mean comment. But it's a lot harder to be compassionate towards people who aren't compassionate towards you. But I want you to know that you do deserve that compassion.
I actually want to reply to this idea like student or aerospace engineer, because I don't know if you know this, for example, you can get a job at Dish Network where you literally watch TVs all day and make sure they don't go off. The name of that job is Engineer Tier 1. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it's okay to call EJ an engineer who can perform functions of engineering if it's okay to talk to people that could do their job from a toilet.
Technically, when it comes to being like a fully fledged engineer, you do have to be licensed and stuff, which I'm not, because I'm in my 4th year, so I'm not a freshman, which I saw some people saying. Like, I know I look like a 12-year-old boy. I am aware. I am small. I am petite. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm 21. I could show you my license.
I'm just proud of you for not coming with the baseball cap.
They hated the cap. So many comments hated the cap. I don't know why.
Oh man, I have an episode where I wore a blue vest, and that's all the comments were about, was the vest, not the content, the vest. All right, let's move on to the next clip. This one will get a little bit more serious. This one is one with Jamie and Matt Dillahunty. And what I love about this clip is Jamie totally steals the show. If you're familiar with Matt Dillahunty, he's a very presence.
Prominent.
He's a present presence. He's very there, and he's hard to take the show away from. And so he does a really good job. So check this out.
Yeah, and I would like to say, Albert, the fact that really, I know that it's, even when I watch old episodes, I try and respond to things that callers and that Matt say. But this doesn't demonstrate a level of cognitive dissonance, and it would be better if humans didn't rationalize and come to illogical beliefs. However, we didn't evolve, or whether you believe in creationism, we don't exist in such a way that we can turn off irrationality. And so we have to find some way, if we're going to live in a civil society, of managing that. And I'm happy to use whatever tools, cognitive, that I can on myself to limit and control the influence of irrational tendencies in my mind. Whether that means making myself, allowing myself to believe that something that's unlikely is more likely for a moment so that I feel better, is to me in many cases useful, because feeling negative or panicked or stressed about something doesn't facilitate my ability to evaluate it rationally. So if I take 5 minutes to myself and I think about ponies or rabbits, or I watch a cat video online and I think about how amazing it's going to be that my cat at home, I could definitely take the time and teach it to do a backflip with a bow or whatever it is I find online, that might make me happy, and then I would pet my cat and feel better, and then I would think about the thing that was causing the stress and the irrationality. So it's not about coming to a series of beliefs about what exists in reality and then living one's life by them. It's about managing the irrationality that we all have inside our own heads.
This might be my favorite Jamie clip. He very eloquently explains this idea, this condition we all have, as humans have, to appeal to our own rationality and how we want to be irrational, but we can rise above it, basically. I just, if we're going to go with serious clips and not everything funny, I really like this one.
Yeah, Jamie did a fantastic job. I mean, we're not pure logic robots. You know, we have emotions and feelings that aren't always totally rational. And, you know, sometimes you got to give into the irrationality a little bit just because, you know, we're human and that's what we are. And you just got to find ways to work around it to be better than human. I don't know. That was kind of a lame. No.
We won't get into.
We cannot have this conversation
I
in the
wasn't even
video.
going toward
Jesus
robots.
Christ.
Okay, we won't talk about robots. Now, in this actual same episode, there is one other moment. It might be as profound, so let's jump on that before we pull up the comments. Go ahead and check this one out too.
Why is your shirt inside out?
Oh, I more often than not wear my shirts inside out. But
He wears them 2 days in a row, and this is the second day.
no.
Very efficient.
Super profound. I think it's actually important to like review every now and then. Like, I don't know how long ago that episode was now. It wasn't super recent. So we do need to remind people and the new viewers, there's a reason his shirts are on inside out. It's just kind of his thing. An inside out shirt and suspenders. You got to have a signature look when you have a signature brand.
Everybody's got to have a thing. Mine is this.
I didn't know if you were pointing to the flag or your haircut at first. Both are super gay, but like, great. And here are some of the comments from this video we liked. Once again, EJ, why don't you go first?
Just caught up with Talk Heathen today. As someone who's been watching the Atheist Experience for 6 years, Jamie's as quality a host as any they've had on the Atheist Experience. He's damn good.
And also, not that I want to plug another show, but on the Atheist Experience, he actually co-hosted, I think it was about 3 weeks ago now. You should go watch that episode. Jamie is a frickin' rock star, and all of you people who come into the comments and go, can we replace Jamie? Fuck you, dude. You come replace Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie's fantastic. Like, there have been people suggesting to, like, put me in Jamie's place. Hell no. Jamie is amazing. Like, he kills it. He's great. Okay.
And the other thing is, this is Eric and Jamie's show. As long as it's Talk Heathen, you're going to see them. If you don't like that, get the fuck out. I just had to fight with somebody who also said the same thing about Eric and was like, hey, can we just like my status if you think we should replace... Who the fuck do you think we is? You are nobody. You don't get to say if we can... This is Eric's show and Eric's baby. Like, fucking call up CNN and try that shit. Like, I really like Anderson Cooper 360. The one thing I would change is getting rid of Anderson Cooper. Eat shit.
Eric and Jamie are Talk Heathen.
Yeah, and if you don't like it, fucking bounce. I got a little passion there.
Yeah, I could tell.
Everything about Jamie is perfect. Let me read the next comment. Jamie looks a little Amish, haha. Oh shit, yeah, kind of.
I think it's the beard. You think?
It could be the beard. Mm-hmm. And EJ, why don't you read the last one?
Is this show available as a podcast somewhere? It is now.
Yeah, that's why I put it in. We'll plug the podcast. It's available on iTunes and all the places that podcasts happen. Those links are also in the description below. You can listen to Talk Heathen. This would be a weird episode to listen to, but normally, yeah, you can listen. I think the visuals in this episode, like the muscle man behind me. Not everything at Talk Heathen is always so serious. Sometimes it gets very light and fluffy. And to be honest, atheists love holidays just as much as anyone else. And traditions are important to humans. It's a human thing. Well, check out this clip of a tradition starting at Talk Heathen.
Are you okay?
Yes, it's our Christmas episode.
Yes, this is technically our Christmas episode. And so Eric will wear the doodle bopper.
Yes, very serious doodle bopper.
Yes, having a doodle bopper on our show for a Christmas episode is now...
It's needed. It's needed. I got to do the doodle bopper.
It is now a canon of our traditions.
Mm-hmm. It will be every year.
On the count of three then? 1, 2, 3. Change approved. No?
Yeah, I'm down.
Okay. That's... Someone somewhere is like, oh my gosh, you watch that show? No, not really. I just know things.
Do you see now what I did there with like the light and fluffy thing? It was all planned. This is the magic of television production. But while we're on the topic of Christmas, this is something that comes up to us a lot. How do atheists celebrate Christmas? Check out this clip from actually a different episode.
Hey, boys. I just want to know what exactly is it that you celebrate on Christmas if you're atheist and you don't believe in God?
Sure. Yeah, and for my family, it is not particularly religious. I mean, it holds on to the idea
Baby
of family.
Jesus.
And when it comes to Christmas in general, I love Christmas. People have this idea that
That's right. You got into that Who Loves Christmas More thing
dude,
with Beth.
with Beth. It's amazing. I absolutely love Christmas.
I always
love
feel weird when I don't.
the decorations. I
Yeah.
love decorating the house. I love the smells of Christmas and mulled wine. I love Santa, and I love just the joy that it brings
And
people. I love giving
gingerbread
presents.
and smiles
Yeah.
and happiness.
And none of that
rainbows.
is in the Bible.
EJ, I grew up as a Mormon, so I need to ask you this question real quick. What is mulled wine? Do you know?
It's like, isn't it wine that you heat up with spices in it? That's what I thought.
Don't ask me. I genuinely have no idea.
Yeah, my understanding is that it's just like special wine that you're meant to heat up with like spices in it. But I think I've had it once. It wasn't my favorite.
So I have left Mormonism. The reason why I don't drink now is totally unrelated to that. But even when I did drink, I really never liked any kind of wine, so I don't think I'd like it. But EJ, now that Eric has answered the question, how is it that you celebrate Christmas? How dare you?
Yeah, I mean, so I grew up secular. My family never went to church at all, and we still had Christmas because I think my parents saw it as like everybody else had Christmas, and they grew up with Christmas, so it was just kind of this fun gift-giving time that you spend time together as a family and all that kind of stuff. So there's just something really fun about like watching the Christmas movies and getting to open up presents on Christmas morning that like, you know, don't deprive a kid of that. Like, if you don't want to tell them about the whole Santa thing or you want to make clear that it's just a story, that's totally fine. Like, it doesn't have to be religious in any way. And in fact, to me, it was never religious. And it was only when I got older, same thing with Easter, which we've got coming up. It was only when I got older that I realized, oh, this is supposed to be a religious thing, but what about the giant bunny that brings me candy? What's that got to do with religion?
Yeah, that's kind of my point. Like, what about Christmas is all that Christian? Granted, I get that some of you take the scriptures out. My family certainly did, and read the Christmas story. But the rest of Christmas is nothing. It's not remotely Christian. In fact, a lot of the traditions are pagan. I'm pretty sure the Bible actually says don't take a pine tree into your house. So let's maybe before I have to explain why I can give gifts and appreciate a person one day a year, or my family and friends one day a year, you could explain why you're doing pagan things your Bible says not to.
Okay, what about the war on Christmas? Starbucks made their cups red.
Oh my God, go Starbucks in the cups. So I'll bring up Josh Feuerstein later. This time I will take the first comment, if you don't mind, EJ, unless that enrages you. Mostly because the next one's a little mean at Jamie and I wanted to make you say it. Many religious people don't celebrate Christmas, mainly because it started off as a pagan festival. The government, Cromwellian, ultra-religious government banned it. Come on, guys, sentence structures. Along with singing plus dancing in public. Yeah, that's kind of the point I was making. I don't know about the Cromwellian. I don't know if that's a typo or that you're saying that's the actual civilization. But I am aware. You can actually watch Adam Ruins Everything. He does a whole episode on. Got to stop plugging other shows. But he does this really good episode on the old traditions of Christmas and why it used to be banned in a lot of places, including early America.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Cromwellian is a reference to like a historical figure in England, I believe, named Cromwell in like the early modern period of Europe.
I think you're right. What I don't understand is the phrase, the government Cromwellian ultra-religious government. That's where I'm saying I don't know how to fix the mess that just happened. I could barely say it. Why don't you take the next
YouTube
comment?
Comments. Speaking of YouTube comments, here's one that I feel bad about reading, but you're making me read it anyway. Jamie, ... Dude, ... You made some good points and arguments, but for the love of God, stop interrupting. Those caps locks were there, by the way. I pronounced them for you, so you could get the full effect of the comment.
We're going to put the comments on the screen too, just so you know, but that's okay. I like that you included the punctuation, except for some reason you skipped the comma, elitist. Anyway.
Commas are a pause and like...
So First of all, once again, screw you, I love everything about Jamie. But here's a fun little fact. You can actually tell how much sleep Jamie has gotten by how often he interrupts people. Look for it next time. You'll be like, oh, he does look more tired and he's interrupting less. It's an interesting phenomenon.
Wait, so you're saying when he's more awake, he interrupts more?
Oh yeah, when he's got more of a charge and stuff, yeah, he works a lot and he works really late, and so the more tired he is, the less energy he has.
See, I thought you were making the argument the other way of like when he's more awake, he can be more aware of when he's interrupting. But no, you're saying that when he's more conscious, he interrupts more. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, I do it too. I do it to people all the time. I've restrained myself for this, but EJ, you don't have to admit that we're friends, but we've had chats before, and I'm certain you've been like, motherfucker needs to stop interrupting me, though. Am I wrong? I mean,
I'm pretty good about not getting cut off, because I'm fairly forceful as a speaker.
And now for the final comment. When other people bow their heads in prayers, I use that opportunity to take a nap. It's very refreshing. I wanted to talk about this comment, again, because of having been a Mormon. The greatest thing about not being Mormon is having Sundays back, which they already teach you. Like, take Sunday easy, other than going to like 40 hours of church in one 24-hour period. It makes sense, just don't think about it. And now, instead of just napping the couple hours after church, you can just nap the whole day, though you should interrupt those Sunday naps to catch Talk Heathen and the Atheist Experience live.
I can't relate. I never had to go to church on Sunday. Be jealous.
I genuinely, like, not only am I jealous, it means our brains work differently. Sunday to me still, because of my upbringing, feels like the day you reset the whole week. It feels like that day of rest. And now as I get like away from that time and I'm like pissed off everybody's closed by 6 on Sundays and that Chick-fil-A is closed on Sundays and that's the only day I want Chick-fil-A. I don't know.
See, I grew up with Sunday being the day that I did all the homework I was supposed to do earlier in the week.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that you don't ever eat at Chick-fil-A.
No. No.
Fair to say. If Eric and Jamie were here, they would tell you that the callers are just as important as them as the hosts. One of my favorite callers was a guy named Tom. I don't know if he's actually ever called in again. I hope he does. But this is a clip from Tom. Have a look.
Been touched, I'm not sure, is that let her be sure that her nieces see that she's good without God. Every few months, just call them up and say, hey, I'm going out to, walk dogs at the local animal shelter. Would either of you like to come with me this Saturday afternoon?
Ooh, I love that.
Go serve lunch at the public library as part of a fundraiser, blah, blah, blah. Don't engage with what they believe. Let them see what you do. That you're perfectly capable of having a life that includes, I'm waving my hand and you can't see it, that your life includes virtue, your life includes ethics, your life includes purpose, and you don't need God or church in riding the steering wheel.
Dang, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, this caller's point is a really good one. I grew up secular and I haven't gone out and murdered any people, so clearly my morals didn't come from religion, although I'm sure somebody out there is going to argue, well, your morals are from religion, you just didn't get them from a religious source? I don't know.
In which case, they should go watch my episode of Dear Mr. Atheist, all about how an atheist can be moral, which makes the case that secularism isn't just responsible for an atheist's morals, but religious people's morals too. Go check that out.
Shameless plug, shameless plug.
So also, the thing I want to talk about, with this clip, I grew up Mormon. I have the street cred that clearly you don't. You were meant to laugh or something.
If it's funny, I'll laugh. Make a funny joke next time.
It was funny. But growing up Mormon, you're always told these stories of these people who were excommunicated or left the church and the misery their lives are in now, because the people who come back do often come back after misery and wanting a community. And what's easier than becoming a part of the Mormon community? You only have to give up Sundays and 10% of your income. And so that was the expectation growing up. Like, when you leave, you will be pathetic and just bad and a bad person. But it's the opposite. And I notice this a lot within people who were religious that become atheists. There's this shared sentiment of, we weren't good people when we were religious, and now we are.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks.
That's all
Great.
I have to add to that. I mean, I don't have any.
Yeah. Probably because you don't have any street cred.
Fuck
Anyway.
you.
Fuck you. And so, moving on to the comments, EJ, take away on the first one.
If I pray for a sign, any sign at all, anything that happens after that can be considered that sign.
So obviously, remembering that we're taking comments from the whole episode, that one has to do with somebody sort of making this claim that they had prayed for a sign and then received a sign. If I recall, it was like knocking sounds. But that's kind of the point. You can do this with anything. Like, please, if there out there is a universe pooping troll, do something to tell me your presence is there. And then if you're constantly looking for something that it isn't immediately obvious what that source is, you quickly go to, oh, well, that's my sign from the troll.
You know, when I was younger and I first learned about God at about age 8 or 9, I think I was, me being the little scientist that I was, because I went to all the science camps and whatnot, I started doing experiments where I would think, you know, okay, God, if you're real, move that pencil. And then I would wait, and then nothing happened. And I would do little experiments like that, just every couple of days, just like seeing if maybe there'll be a sign or not. And, you know, there never was.
See, I want to now be the theist, because I've been one and I know what some of them are going to think. And some of them are going to think like, oh, but that's proof that they know, that EJ knows that there's some God. Like, why would they test something that they don't think is probably there? And so I want to clarify, EJ, you tell me if you have this experience. I did the pencil thing too, to verify whether or not I was actually a Jedi.
I also did it for, I don't know if anybody's read Matilda by Roald Dahl. I loved Matilda growing up. And so I read Matilda and I was like, okay, her whole thing is that she's so smart that, like, if she focuses hard enough, she can use her extra brain power that's not being used to, like, move things with her mind. And so I would do experiments like that where I'd be like, okay, I'm staring at, because there's this scene in the book where she, like, stares at a cigar on her dresser and then, like, it rolls off. And so I would stare at objects on a thing and, like, wait for it to roll. So, like, maybe I'm just, like, testing things like that.
Deep down, you know you're a Matilda.
Clearly.
Obviously.
I have magic powers. You just don't know it yet. Jinx, Randy, come at me.
Oh, get that $1 million. I hope it's still up for grabs. Here's the last comment on that video. Stop spelling out MAIL for your email address. How stupid do you think your audience is? If someone thinks it's MALE, they are probably on the wrong video to begin with. Okay, here's the thing. Eric and Jamie are both too nice to reply to that comment the way I'm going to. The question is, how stupid do they think the audience is? I'm not saying it's all the audience, but I've engaged with flat earthers in the comments.
Oh boy.
They're not all geniuses.
Yeah. Yeah. I've spent more time than I probably should have replying to comments. I have to agree.
That was my nice way of not saying, like, how stupid do you think they are? Real stupid.
Fucking morons! No.
Morons! Yep. I love being on a show where I can say fuck, by the way. I don't do it on my show because it's supposed to be a family resource for people who have questions. And so I don't want a Mormon to come and go, well, I'm leaving because he just said the ass word. Now, how could we possibly have a clip show without including that special Scottish guy? Behold, my people, I present to you perhaps the greatest Hamish moment of all time. Take it away, but watch Eric's face.
We are talking about circumcision.
Okay.
Do you consider that, I mean, a kind of blood sacrifice for God? Like beyond just a symbol of the covenant between God and Abraham and his descendants that will number more than the stars in the sky?
The procedure can indeed involve bloodshed, and sacrifices must be made to appease Jesus,
Okay.
the Lord,
So,
the Father.
wait, circumcision is necessary. Is circumcision one of the sacrifices that are necessary to appease Jesus?
This is a sacrifice we make of our own volition in covenant with the Lord, the Father.
All right. So, okay, that actually, do we know what the necessary number or amount of sacrifices are?
Okay, so I don't think either of us really want to discuss this topic as a topic too much. You got to meet Hamish, though. What did you think? Here's what I think. I know from that episode, I want to create like a dubstep beat that is just like, and then it pauses for him to go, "What is a man?" What is, and then then there'll be the beat drop and it'll be like, and it'll end with it. I'm very disturbed.
You gotta include abominable in there.
Oh yeah, abominable.
See, okay.
And that's
my takeaway from my experience with Hamish. I genuinely cannot tell, and I know that there's a lot of discourse in the comments as well. I genuinely cannot tell if he's joking or not, because interacting with him, he made arguments I've heard before, but also the accent, but also who exists that is like that. But there are people that exist that are like, I can't wrap my head around it. So my only takeaway from Hamish is that he called me abominable, which is the greatest compliment anyone's ever given me, and it's going to be my name on any social media account I make from here on out for literally ever now.
The abominable EJ. So what you're saying is there's almost a fantasy level to his voice. And with that, why don't you read the first comment under this video?
He's obviously a sorcerer. He sounds like one anyways.
Yeah, he kind of does. I'm cursing you to an eternity of... There is another person who points out that the depth of his voice is clearly somebody talking too low into their
That's
throat.
the noise I make when I try not to be 5 octaves higher than is comfortable for human hearing. Unfortunately, my natural voice is just pretty high, and there's not a whole lot I can do about it. Unless you want to hear me talk like this.
I especially enjoyed this comment on this circumcision video. This gives a whole new meaning to the word sacrifice.
Buddy, I don't think you know what circumcision is. Either that or somebody really messed yours up.
That's true. I'm not saying that it's all in that area. I know what you're saying. Yeah. That's a bad tuck job. I'd say I had my circumcision retouched recently. I do every couple of years. I'm just kidding. I don't know why I said any of that. And EJ, go ahead and take the last one.
Why do they entertain this troll? Because he's entertaining.
Yeah, he really is. It's kind of like Victor to me too. Like Victor and Hamish less, but Victor to me is like a clown. He's a cartoon character, and I just want to watch him dance. Hamish, though, will bring up things that are at least deeply preventing other people from escaping their religious mindset. And I don't think he knows the amount of good he does. When we debate people, we're debating for the audience. And he is often raising the correct points. And by us responding, I think maybe he thinks by posing the question, he's winning the minds of the audience. But I would be very surprised to find out that that's true, because the answers that come back are like, no, your perception of the world is based in this predetermined fairy tale, and if you take yourself out of it, these answers aren't all that hard to come by.
Yeah, I know that there was at least one comment that I read on, a video of my interaction with Hamish that said, I actually used to support Hamish's idea, but after hearing such well-reasoned answers, I think I came around. And to toot my own horn, I did. No.
Yeah, I was about to say.
It wasn't meant to be tooting my own horn. It was mostly just an observation that, yeah, it does work. Sometimes people hear the opposition that they've never heard before, and if it's explained in a way that is accessible, it really makes a difference.
Okay, but what is a man? All right, moving on.
A miserable pile of secrets.
Wasn't that in the comments too? Oh, I should have included that one. That was
Yeah, it was definitely in the comments. I 100% stole it. Whoever commented that, I'm sorry, I don't know your username, or I'd shout you out. But like,
that was
yeah,
my favorite too. Comments. I loved that one.
It was a good one.
Unfortunately, on this show, it's not always unicorns and rainbows. Sometimes it just builds up, you get frustrated, and at a certain point, you have to say, fuck off, dude.
Right? We have the laws of logic, and to the best of our ability, we've been able to see that it works, right? We can justify that it works in that every time that we've used it, it has worked, and if it doesn't, then the better thing to do is not use it anymore. That's fine. But if you're going to come in and say you need to justify it, then what you are doing is implying that you do have that answer. That is a presuppositional argument. What you're doing is you're making a special example for yourself when you're not addressing the point. I have the answer, and so you know what? I just do because my imaginary friend says so. That's way less authentic. That's way less. It doesn't answer anything because it doesn't have predictive power. It doesn't have the ability to test it in other places. I do because I said so doesn't really answer anything. And so if you don't like the answer, then fucking welcome to the human condition. We all have it.
He's on hold still.
No.
Too.
Fuck this guy. Next call. Like, you need to show so many fucking parts of that. What is energy? What are meridian lines? How do we know that acupuncture is a thing? How many things did you have that could be solved with the placebo effect, right? And why do I care? Why do I get so upset? I'm upset because there are people who are preying on my family who are dying, right? And there are other people that I know who will die, and people out there that I don't know, many more, who will die if they don't figure out that that kind of bullshit is just that.
I think this discussion will work best if we just jump straight into the comments. Do you want to go ahead and take the first one?
Eric is just so done. LOL.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point I was going to make. Like, at a certain point, you just run out of patience. And with specific things, I get so annoyed much faster than Eric does. In the first one, the guy's basically playing a word game and trying to go with these sort of broader ideas of like, how do we even know what's real? I had a member of my family recently say they're more sure God exists than they are sure that I exist. That's a state of delusion. That is not anything anyone should brag about. A person you cannot experience with any of your senses, you are more certain of their existence than the existence of me. That's just stupid to say.
Yeah, I mean, I really love seeing Eric actually go off on this, because, you know, even the kind of like wooey arguments, I know Mike was on recently as well, like even new agey type stuff is still really damaging. And so seeing Eric just like get mad and go off on this person, deservedly so, like, was really satisfying to see, and it made me really like admire Eric all the more.
So let me ask you this, does the same thing happen to you where you meet people who are like adequately skeptical about everything in their life when it comes to like, yes, psychics are clearly bullshit. I learned about cold reading, and energy stuff is bullshit. I learned about the placebo effect. And then they go, but that Jesus answers my prayers. And you just go, what? Where the fuck did this go wrong? Does this happen to you ever?
I haven't had that. I've had the opposite of like people who are like definitely skeptical and whatnot, don't believe in religion or atheist and everything, but are really into like crystals and like aromatherapy and acupuncture, not naming names, but my parents.
Yeah. So my dad, it's one of those things that I'm not going to say anything mean about him, not publicly, only to his face. But my dad is a very skeptical guy 99% of the time, but that 1% of the time, which he would argue it's more than 1% because he's Mormonism takes a lot, but he can just suspend it all for what to me is so clearly a scam. These people are all charlatans, whether it's the witch doctors or Joseph Smith. It's just kind of obvious now, I guess. I'll take on the second comment. Well said, Eric. We need to stand up to supernatural beliefs and not dwell in the fog of relativism. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we pretty much covered that responding to the first question, or first comment.
Why don't you go ahead and take that last comment?
Drinking game. Have a shot every time Haley Joel Osment says to be clear.
Okay, look. Jamie does not look... Hang on. What? Oh, my producer's putting a picture of Haley Joel Osment on my screen. Oh, yeah. Okay, fair. We'll move on. Now, while Eric can get angry and maybe he flies off a little bit, though I've told him he was much nicer than me, but he sometimes feels bad after. You should reassure him in the comments that he was in the right. But anyway, he can get angry, but he also knows how to drop the microphone. Check out this clip.
If your scripture is true, there's nothing that I can say that would bring it down. And there's nothing that I could say that would make it less true.
So this is a concept that is kind of hard for people. People get offended when you start to investigate their religious claims. And some even, I've had people say they won't even dare because they feel like that's somehow like an affront to God to dare question him. But if God exists and he's real and he's true, what does he have possibly to hide?
Exactly. I personally think that the reason people get so upset when you start questioning their faith is because you're pointing to them at that little seed of doubt that they have in their minds, and it's really uncomfortable and they've been trained to ignore it their whole lives. So like pointing it out kind of just really unsettles the psyche, and so getting defensive is kind of their response. And it's like, well, if it's true, then why are you so defensive, you know? On
to the comments. You might have noticed a third face there that was not familiar. Go ahead, EJ, read that first, mostly because I want to hear you say his last name.
No.
Read that first comment.
Am I going to mispronounce it?
Probably not. It sounds as it's spelled,
it just sounded like
but it's just one of those consonant
sounds. A setup if you wanted me to mispronounce it. Okay, Ray Blevins equals legend.
I feel like you should hit the blah a little harder. Ray Blevins. Ray is from the early days of the Atheist Experience, and he's a really cool guy, and it was a really exciting thing to have him on the show, and I haven't got to meet him in person, but I do aspire to one day. Okay, and actually, EJ, if you don't mind, I'm going to give you the second comment too, because there's fun words that I don't know if you know them.
You're just trying to set me up to mispronounce things, make myself look stupid. Okay, here we go.
A little bit, yep.
Every time someone says epistemology, I hear episiotomy, not something you want in the street.
Definitely. Do you know what an episiotomy is?
It sounds like a medical term.
It is a medical term, and it's a weird thing to think of every time you hear epistemology. That is a personal problem. You see, what we're talking about here is a procedure done to a woman giving birth. It's a supplementary incision done to the vagina to control the way they tear as the child comes out. So if that's what you're thinking of every time somebody says epistemology, you should work on that.
Why? I mean, hopefully it's because this person's an OBGYN and not just like a creep who's real into weird medical procedures. Hopefully.
Or just, I guess I can see just the word association too. It's not as though they aren't far off from each other, but at a certain point, like every time you hear the word semicolon, do you immediately go to cholesterol? So EJ, it's been a few weeks now since you've been a co-host or a guest host on the show, and I think we all want to know who was your favorite caller on during your time.
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot here.
That's the point.
Well, I'm not going to say Victor or Hamish because quite honestly, that was pretty painful. There was I think it was Olin who called in who was talking about like, you know, what our generation's struggle is. And I really enjoyed his commentary and yeah, I really enjoy talking to older atheists that are really positive about where the atheist movement is going, because there's a lot of older atheists that are like, oh, these kids with their gender studies and whatnot. So I really appreciated somebody who was an older member of the atheist movement and supported where we're going with it.
So I'm going to say my favorite was Victor because it actually was the moment where he presented himself for, frankly, the fraud that he is, the person who... It's not about whether or not you are right or wrong. It's he's made a position, and as long as he can say words, he's right. And I think he exposed it the most because you were able to come back with the answers he was asking for. And then later he's like, what does orbital mechanics even have to do with anything? Well, it's the answer to the fucking question you asked. So I like that because it was the moment where the ACA realized they don't need to deal with such a fool anymore. I'm not saying that's the end of Victor forever. Maybe they'll take his call again one day. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe next
I'm
time
just
I
saying,
come on.
Yeah, and right after you, there was the Tracy with, I'm forgetting the other host's name, but I know you know.
Callie Wright.
Callie Wright. And he tried to pull the same stuff, and Tracy was just like, I'm not the person to appeal to, and right now you have to convince me that the pictures of the Earth aren't good enough evidence. I almost wanted to set up a debate with him where I was like, okay, what's your point for flat Earth? And then it's like, all right, Jimmy, and yours? And I would just hold up a picture of the Earth. And then he would go, oh, that's fucking fake, though. And then I would just go, no. That's
See, what's amazing to me is the number of people that watched that video and then came away thinking that Victor won that debate because I made one factual error. And I'm like, I was wrong about one thing and right about everything else. And he was wrong about everything. So I don't see how me being wrong once means that he won automatically.
Yep. And honestly, I think that's a good place to leave it. EJ, do you have anything you would like to plug before we go, where people could find you maybe on the social medias that you aren't afraid of them finding you on?
Yeah, sure. So I'm on Facebook. I'm pretty easy to find since my full name is on the episode. And plenty of people have added me already. That's fine for the most part, as long as you're not going to be a douchebag and like comment on too many of my posts, because that gets a little weird because I don't know you. But yeah, you're welcome to add me on there. I literally just made a Twitter, so if you want to follow that, I have one tweet that says, hey, I guess I made a Twitter. That's at AbominableEJ. I also have a YouTube account, but it has just like an old high school project and then like 2 videos of me singing. So maybe don't follow that one, but that's also pretty easy to find. It's also AbominableEJ, because Hamish gave me the name Abominable and I'm gonna fucking use it.
Run with that shit. Well, thank you very much for watching. Once again, I am Mr. Atheist. If you want to check out my channel, the link to that channel is down below. We recently did an episode called What's Wrong with Mormonism. That's something I've brought up a couple of times in this video. We do things with these caricatures. The whole thing's a lot of fun. Check it out and tell me what you think of it. We also did a video takedown of Josh Feuerstein, who is like the second love of my life, and all about evolution. Yeah, go check those out. Links to my pages as well as EJ's Twitter and such will be in the description below. Also, make sure to follow the Talk Heathen guys on all of their social media. I know their Instagrams are at Eric the Heathen and at Jamie the Heathen, and that's all I remember. Jamie's Twitter is something like reason_skepticism. I don't know. It's all, I'm sure, down there also. And before we end the show, I do want to put a special thank you out to Janet Reyes. Janet has been making the descriptions for the podcast, and so she knows like all of the clips and helped me find the clips I wanted for today's show. Couldn't have done it without her, especially on the short amount of time we ended up putting this together. And also Phil, who did the opening animation and volunteered to create one custom for EJ and I, which we love that too. And that's not the end of all the clips. To end things out, I want to make a point. Sign-offs and catchphrases are hard, and you can't just steal them from other people. Like, if you could steal them, we'd do something like this.
Live from New York, it's
Sunday afternoon. But listen, they are working on it, so check it out. But in the meantime, stay skeptical, my friends.
We don't hate you.
We just
think you're
disagree.
wrong.
Wait, what? We don't hate you.
Oh,
we just...
Can I do it again?
Sure. No. One time only.
We don't hate you.
Sudden death.
We just...
We just disagree with the confidence that you hold in your conclusions based on the justifications you've offered so far.
We don't hate you.
We just don't believe that the thing... Wait, what?
We don't hate you.
We just
think you're wrong.
disagree with your conclusions.